The 50 most iconic fictional characters. What makes a character truly iconic? Is it their ability to inspire, or entertain? Maybe it's the way they stick with us like a nightmare, or make us laugh every time we see their face.
In fiction, television and film, there are countless characters that ascend beyond fan favorite to reach worldwide iconic status. In no particular order, here are 50 of the greatest fictional characters ever.
Harry Potter. As the title character in the best-selling book series of all time, and one of the highest-grossing film series ever, Harry Potter is certainly an icon. The most famous student at Hogwarts is beloved by children and adults around the world, as much for his flaws as his magical talents and bravery.
Mickey Mouse, created in 1928 by Walt Disney, and making his debut appearance in the short Steamboat Willie, the first animation to feature synchronized music and sound effects. The black-eared mouse was instantly popular and has been famous ever since, whether in movies, books or countless toys. Mickey is friendly, funny and multi-talented, and still one of the most recognizable characters in the world.
Tony Soprano. The Sopranos is often credited with spearheading the so-called golden age of TV drama. And its anti-hero, Tony, is undoubtedly one of the most memorable and complicated characters to ever appear on television. He's a mobster and monster, but also a husband, father, and suffering son prone to guilt and panic attacks. And viewers tuned in for Tony's ever-captivating mix of evil and humanity.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She's a devoted friend, fights evil at every turn, and somehow manages to look both good and cool while doing it. First seen in the 1992 action comedy film, and made even more popular with the launch of the 1997 television series starring Sarah Michelle Gellar in the title role, Buffy has become one of the most beloved heroines around. Fans of the show are so devoted that there's even been talk of a reboot.
Sherlock Holmes. The fictional detective created by Scottish writer Arthur Conan Doyle is famous for his uncanny ability to solve crimes and track criminals. He first appeared in Doyle's story A Study in Scarlet in 1887, and has since become a popular figure in movies, TV, and pop culture. Considered to be a character who showed the triumph of scientific criminology, and the prototype for modern detective stories. Holmes already enjoyed an enduring love that was renewed with the popular series Sherlock starring Benedict Cumberbatch.
Wonder Woman, a role model and a fierce warrior, the DC superhero has appealed to people of all ages since she made a comic book debut in 1941. Already a beloved character because of her devotion to both peace and justice, Wonder Woman saw her popularity increase with the 1970s TV series starring Linda Carter, and again recently with the blockbuster movies starring Gal Gadot as the title hero.
Dracula. The title character created by Bram Stoker in his 1897 novel Dracula has become the blueprint on which all other vampires are modeled. He has been portrayed and adapted to be utterly terrifying, disarmingly suave, or surprisingly funny. On screen, Dracula's first appearance was in the 1921 Hungarian film Dracula's Death. But the 1922 classic Nosferatu is more famous, as is the 1931 film with Bela Lugosi playing the famed monster Count.
Homer Simpson. As the flawed but lovable protagonist of The Simpsons, which also happens to be the longest-running animated television series and longest-running scripted primetime TV show in U.S. history, Homer is one of the most recognizable characters in the world. His rabid love of food and beer, memorable catchphrases, puny ability, and talent for being both buffoon and sensitive sweetheart have made him not only one of the most iconic cartoon characters, but also one of the most iconic TV characters ever.
Ellen Ripley. Called the perfect protagonist, Ellen Ripley is an action hero for the ages, who uses her intelligence, ferocity, and survivor instinct to fight a killer xenomorph in the Alien film series. Some have made the argument that all the great female sci-fi film characters to follow, such as Sarah Connor from The Terminator or Furiosa from Mad Max, Fury Road wouldn't exist if not for the blueprint created by Ripley and the vision of director James Cameron.
Darth Vader. While there are many characters in the ever-popular Star Wars universe that would qualify as iconic, the biggest and best villain of them all, Darth Vader, surely tops the list. In his formidable black mask, and with a powerful voice courtesy of James Earl Jones, he is a faceless personification of evil but also has a depth that makes his embrace of the dark side all the more intimidating. In the original films, the many sequels, animated offshoots and product marketing, Vader remains the villain everyone loves to hate.
Betty Boop. Animator Grim Natwick originally drew the seductive cartoon character as a dog. But by 1932 Betty Boop had transformed into a woman, and one of the most popular characters in short film. She was modeled after the flappers of the 1920s, such as singer Helen Kane, and was the first cartoon character to be censored because of her salacious style. She is also one of the most merchandised characters around.
Superman. The Man of Steel was created by writer Jerry Siegel and artist Joe Shuster and made his first appearance in a DC Comics book in 1938. Since then, he's become perhaps the most iconic superhero around, with countless movies, TV shows, and products celebrating his legacy. The 2020 poll voted Superman most popular superhero ever.
Dirty Harry. There are many memorable cops who've graced the big and little screen, but none are perhaps as iconic as Harry Callahan, Clint Eastwood, better known as Dirty Harry. The 1970s films are admittedly filled with language and stereotypes that are completely unacceptable by today's standards. But that doesn't diminish Harry's appeal as a hard-boiled detective with attitude. His catchphrases, including, "Go ahead," "Make my day," and the often misquoted, but nonetheless popular, "Do I feel lucky? Well, do ya, punk," have also become legendary.
Bugs Bunny. There is no shortage of great Looney Tunes characters, but king among them has to be the legendary Bugs Bunny, known for his funny antics and signature catchphrase, "What's up, Doc?" Bugs has been beloved by people of all ages since he first debuted in 1940. He even has his very own star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Scarlett O'Hara. As the heroine of Margaret Mitchell's Gone with the Wind, the classic 1936 novel about the American Civil War, and the legendary Oscar-winning movie that followed, Scarlett O'Hara is surely the most iconic Southern belle around. Brought to life on screen by Vivien Leigh, Scarlett quickly became one of the most beloved film heroines ever. With her strength, grace, tenacity, and charm, she is a character and role model for the ages.
E.T. As the title character in the highest-grossing film of the 1980s. You could say that the big-eyed and bigger-hearted E.T. had quite an impact. As soon as Steven Spielberg's sci-fi, family blockbuster E.T. the Extraterrestrial debuted in 1982, fans were immediately smitten with the strange but lovable lost alien. Known for his glowing finger and unforgettable refrain, E.T. Phone Home, E.T. toys and collectibles continue to be valuable today.
Hannibal Lecter. This famed pop culture serial killer, from literature, film and television, was partly based on a real person, which makes him even more terrifying and memorable. First introduced in the novel Red Dragon by Thomas Harris, and immortalized on the big screen by Anthony Hopkins in the 1991 thriller The Silence of the Lambs. Lecter is a fascinating character that manages to be a brilliant and charming doctor, as well as a terrifying and brutal killer and cannibal.
Batman. The Caped Crusader is not only one of the world's most beloved superheroes, but simply one of the best fictional characters, largely because he masters greatness without any supernatural or special abilities. Created for DC Comics by writer Bill Finger and artist Bob Kane in 1939, Batman has spent decades winning over fans in comic strips, TV shows, cartoons, video games and numerous film adaptations.
Kermit the Frog. HuffPost declared him the perfect boyfriend. Due to his loyalty, fair treatment of all species, sense of adventure and ability to express his emotions. But even if you've never considered the green and humble Muppet's romantic potential, you probably agree that he's one great character. Puppeteer creator Jim Henson debuted Kermit on a local Washington, D.C. TV show in 1955. But he didn't hit worldwide fame until he appeared on Sesame Street in 1969. And later as leader of the Muppet Show.
Fred Flintstone. As the patriarch of the Flintstones, television's first animated sitcom which was a parody of The Honeymooners, Fred was instantly poised for popularity, whether it was complaining about work drudgery, coming up with crazy schemes with his friend Barney, or navigating life as a husband to Wilma and dad to Pebbles. What made Fred such a great character was his relatability. Plus, who can resist bellowing his signature catchphrase, "Yeah, abba dabba doo"?
Indiana Jones. In a 2017 poll, Indiana Jones, the adventuring archaeologist played on the big screen in numerous films by Harrison Ford, was voted the greatest movie character of all time. Brave, cool, roguish, and smart, Indy first became part of pop culture in the blockbuster 1981 film Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Pinocchio. When a character's name becomes synonymous with the word lying, you know he's had something of an impact of popular culture. Pinocchio first appeared as a mischievous wooden boy who longed to be real in The Adventures of Pinocchio, the story of a puppet by writer Carlo Collodi in 1881. He was famously popularized by Disney nearly 60 years later in the 1940 animated feature film,
Lucy Ricardo. Comedy legend Lucille Ball had a long and accomplished career. But she is best remembered for bringing the character Lucy Ricardo to life on the classic TV comedy I Love Lucy, which ran from 1951 through 1957. Lucy's misadventures with best friend Ethel, and her relationship with husband Ricky, played by real-life spouse Desi Arnaz, were central to the show. But it was the portrayal of a woman who aspired to be more than simply a mother and wife that made the show groundbreaking, and the character so iconic.
Frankenstein's monster. The lumbering monster is usually just referred to as Frankenstein, the name of the doctor who created him from corpse parts in Mary Shelley's famed horror/sci-fi 1818 novel Frankenstein, or the modern Prometheus, depicted as terrifying, dumb, and sometimes even sweet in movies, TV shows and just about every Halloween product around. The character was most famously played by actor Boris Karloff in countless classic horror films. Shelley's novel has been called the greatest horror novel, and it could be argued that a memorable creation has gone on to be the most popular horror character ever.
Gandalf. As in other great works of fiction, there are multiple characters in J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings trilogy that could be considered iconic. But because of his powerful, wise nature, Gandalf the Wizard is perhaps the most iconic. As the wise advisor to Bilbo and Frodo Baggins, and a fierce warrior when needed, Gandalf is the kind of character that fans instantly love. He was most famously portrayed by Ian McKellen in director Peter Jackson's successful Lord of the Rings film adaptations.
Anne Shirley, the fearless red-haired heroine of Canadian author Lucy Maud Montgomery's Anne of Green Gables book series, is famous around the world. Anne Shirley is beloved for her feisty spirit, sharp intelligence, devotion to her friends, and resiliency in overcoming the many challenges placed in her path. First published in 1908. The debut novel featuring Anne sold 19,000 copies and was reprinted 10 times in its first year. It had achieved international fame by 1909, and has since been adapted into numerous television and film productions. Prince Edward Island, the setting for Anne's adventures, has also become a popular tourist destination for visitors from around the globe.
Peter Pan. His name is now synonymous with anyone who refuses to grow up. And psychologists even refer to Peter Pan syndrome when adults refuse to embrace responsibility. But before his character became world-renowned, for both its flightiness and its fun, Peter Pan first appeared in Scottish playwright J.M. Barrie's Peter Pan, or The Boy Who Would Not Grow Up, and was popularized by the 1953 Disney animated film Peter Pan.
Pennywise. If evil clowns are a common fear, then there is perhaps no more iconic representation than Pennywise. The central character in Stephen King's terrifying 1986 novelette, Pennywise is one of the most recognizable characters in the horror genre. Feared for his trickery, shape-shifting and ability to terrorize children to death, King has said that his appearance is partly inspired by beloved fast food mascot Ronald McDonald. But on-screen portrayals by Tim Curry in the 1990 miniseries and Bill Skarsgård in a popular 2017 movie adaptation of it have sealed Pennywise's fate as the scariest clown around.
Holly Golightly. As the society girl in writer Truman Capote's 1958 novella Breakfast at Tiffany's, Holly Golightly is fashionable, fierce, and charming. That character was perfectly embodied on the big screen by Audrey Hepburn in the 1961 film based on the novella. The character's on-screen styling in a black dress, sunglasses, cigarette holder, and gloves cemented her image as one of the most iconic Hollywood looks ever.
Hercule Poirot. The moustache, the hat, the astute power of observation, the impressive psychological insight. These are all characteristics that describe mystery writer Agatha Christie's beloved Belgian detective character. Hercule Poirot, who first appeared in her 1920 novel The Mysterious Affair at Styles, a prolific writer and creator of the equally loved Miss Marple character, Christie included Poirot in over 50 short stories and 33 novels. On screen, Poirot has been portrayed in a popular series starring David Suchet and by Kenneth Branagh in a 2017 film version of Murder on the Orient Express.
Matilda. A role model for anyone who loves to read or who dreams of making an impact. Writer Roald Dahl's brilliant and gifted character first entered the world in his 1988 novel Matilda. She became even more popular in 1996, with the debut of the film of the same name, starring Mara Wilson as Matilda. The adorable and scrappy bookworm with telekinetic powers helped propel the book to bestseller status. It also won the Children's Book Award and has been adapted into a musical.
James Bond. If you say 007 to just about anyone, chances are they'll know exactly who you're talking about. James Bond, the suave and dangerous British secret agent also known as 007, was created by novelist Ian Fleming, and first appeared in the 1953 book Casino Royale. The author wrote about Bond's thrilling adventures in espionage and womanizing in 12 novels and 2 short stories. He's been portrayed on film by a series of notable actors, including Sean Connery, Roger Moore and most recently Daniel Craig. The media loves to speculate on who will be the next Bond, almost as much as audiences love watching the films.
Black Panther. Though the character has been part of the Marvel Universe since he first appeared in 1966 in the comic book Fantastic Four number 52, he didn't achieve icon status until the success of the 2018 superhero film Black Panther. T'Challa, played by the late Chadwick Boseman, is royalty in the fictional, technologically advanced, African country of Wakanda. The appearance of a black superhero and almost exclusively black cast on the big screen, as well as the film's inspiring and action-packed story, catapulted the movie, and the character, into becoming an international phenomenon.
Atticus Finch. A prominent lawyer and father in Great Depression-era Alabama, Atticus Finch is the wise and just patriarch of author Harper Lee's popular 1960 novel To Kill a Mockingbird. Finch is hailed as a great character because of the way he stands up for what's right, challenging an entire town of bigots without caring how he's perceived. He aims to instill those same ethics in his children too. On the big screen, Finch was most notably played by Gregory Peck in the 1962 drama, and the actor won an Academy Award for the role.
Rachel Green. In a show as influential as NBC's mega-hit 90s sitcom Friends, how do you choose the most iconic character? Rachel, played by Jennifer Aniston, has plenty of haters, but she's also perhaps the biggest pop culture icon, even inspiring one of the decade's biggest hair trends. Those who love Rachel do so because of the way she changes over the course of the series. From spoiled and needy, to independent, strong and endearingly devoted to her friends.
The Dude, Jeff Lebowski, who'd much rather go by The Dude, is arguably the most beloved slacker in film. He's the endlessly quotable, mellow protagonist in the 1998 Coen Brothers crime comedy about a case of mistaken identity, and played to perfection by Jeff Bridges. The Dude's affable energy has also provided plenty of fodder for popular merchandise.
The Wicked Witch. Known for her green skin, pointy black hat, creepy cackle and relentless pursuit of Dorothy and her little dog too. The Wicked Witch of the West is one of the most iconic Hollywood witches ever. Thanks to actress Margaret Hamilton's stellar performance in the 1939 musical The Wizard of Oz. The character, who first appeared in the author L. Frank Baum's 1900 children's novel, is the kind people love to hate and hate to love. She was reinvented and given spotlight status in Gregory Maguire's 1995 novel Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West. That novel was adapted into the hit Broadway musical Wicked.
King Kong. There have been many remakes and reinventions of the popular giant ape, but it all began with the 1933 monster flick King Kong, about a colossal ape who's brought to New York from a tropical island so that he can be shown off as the eighth wonder of the world. He immediately captivated the attention of film lovers, due to his beastly yet misunderstood nature, and his immense appeal hasn't slowed down since, with fans clamoring for even more Kong movies and matchups with other mega monsters.
Winnie the Pooh. The adorable character was created by author A. A. Milne, who first wrote about the honey-loving bear and his crew of animal friends in the 1926 story collection Winnie the Pooh, as a tribute to his son, Christopher Robin. The heartfelt stories were an instant hit, with a war-ravaged world looking for something happy and simple. When Disney introduced the character in the 1966 animated short Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree, drawing him as a cuddly yellow bear in a red shirt, the path was laid for cartoon icon status, with Pooh quickly becoming a star of numerous specials, movies and merchandise for babies, kids and adults alike.
Archie Bunker. It's hard to believe that a bigoted, crotchety old guy could also be one of the most iconic TV characters of all time. But Archie Bunker, played by Carol O'Connor on the popular 70s sitcom All in the Family, is definitely beloved. Bunker was known for his exaggerations, inadvertently hilarious misspeaks, and politically incorrect, shoot-from-the-hip commentary. When Archie spoke, TV audiences listened, and the satirical cleverness of his and the show's take on race, gender, and social inequality came through loud and clear.
Mr. Spock. It's awful to think that one of sci-fi's most iconic characters, Mr. Spock, almost never made it to the small screen. The Vulcan/human first officer, played in the original Star Trek series and many subsequent films by Leonard Nimoy, was nearly omitted from the series because network executives were concerned he looked too much like Satan. Thankfully, Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry demanded Spock be included. In a beloved franchise full of many great characters, the logical but always loyal Spock is a standout.
Elmo. The peppy red monster with the infectious laugh wasn't added to Sesame Street until 1980. But he quickly became not only an important part of the show, but an iconic character adored by kids and adults alike. Elmo is a 3.5-year-old who stars in the show's Elmo's World segment, where he educates as well as entertains. His likeness, created in the Tickle Me Elmo doll, also became one of the hottest-selling toy crazes of all time.
Romeo and Juliet. It might be cheating to make this one a twofer, but it's almost impossible to say the name Romeo without including his fellow star-crossed lover Juliet. Since William Shakespeare first penned the play about the young romantics from warring families in 1597, the famed characters have become so integrated into culture that the name Romeo is now synonymous with a lover. Countless re-envisioned plays, movies and television adaptations have been made featuring the characters.
Walter White, the main character of the hit AMC series Breaking Bad, is so compelling because of his dramatic shift from protagonist to antagonist as the seasons progress. Hailed by some as the greatest TV character ever, White, played to Emmy-winning perfection by Bryan Cranston, shows how circumstances can force a seemingly mild-mannered teacher and father to turn into a criminal mastermind.
Foxy Brown. One of the most influential blaxploitation characters of the 1970s was Foxy Brown, the loyal, smart, tough and alluring citizen who becomes a crime fighter to avenge her dead boyfriend in a series of films, beginning with 1974's Foxy Brown. Played by Pam Grier, the captivating character was parodied by Beyoncé's character Foxy Cleopatra in Austin Powers in Goldmember, and inspired the stage name of rapper Foxy Brown.
Don Corleone, Mario Puzo's best-selling 1969 novel The Godfather, and the acclaimed and financially successful movies that followed, gave the world the most recognizable mafia character around. Don Vito Corleone, portrayed in the films by Marlon Brando, The Godfather, for better and worse, has shaped the way generations view organized crime and relationships in Italian families, and has influenced the many gangster characters that have since turned up in film and television.
Cinderella. She's one of the most popular folktale heroines, with more than 500 varieties of her story recorded in Europe alone. Versions of Cinderella's tale were even told in ancient Egypt, but the modern adaptations have largely been influenced by the 1950 Disney animated retelling. The story of the mistreated girl who eventually finds her happy ending with the help of a fairy godmother and some kind animals has also had success as a Rodgers and Hammerstein musical and several live-action films.
Willy Wonka. As the eccentric mind behind the magical candy factory and author Roald Dahl's 1964 novel Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Willy Wonka is one of the most memorable characters to ever emerge from children's literature. The successful book was adapted into a Broadway musical, a video game and two popular film adaptations. 1971's Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory starring Gene Wilder as Wonka, and 2005's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory starring Johnny Depp as the zany candy man. The Nestle Corporation also had a candy brand known as Willy Wonka to capitalize on the character's appeal.
Moira Rose. If you think a show as new as the hit comedy Schitt's Creek hasn't had enough time to produce iconic characters, then you haven't had the pleasure of being exposed to the mighty Moira Rose. The series quickly captured fans' attention for its joyful and nuanced treatment of queerness, and its hilariously lovable characters. With her outlandish but chic approach to fashion, a dazzling wig collection, and a personality that was always larger than life, Moira, played to perfection by Catherine O'Hara, never failed to be a scene stealer and is an easy addition to the long line of fantastic fictional characters.
Mr. Darcy. Novelist Jane Austen created many characters, but perhaps none are as iconic and beloved as Mr. Fitzwilliam Darcy, the male counterpart to protagonist Elizabeth Bennet in Austen's classic novel Pride and Prejudice. The flawed, but ultimately endearing romantic hero has been played by numerous actors on both the big and small screen, with debate about who embodies the best Darcy enduring as a popular topic of discussion.
Thank you for watching. Roll the end sequence.
Well, that's all, folks.
That's my line.
Step aside, babe. Let a star do this. That's all!
That's all, folks!